Birth control pills could add 10 million doses of hormones to our wastewater every day. Some of that estrogen may wind up in our taps. So, this is my thought. Probably has a big part to do with men becoming so feminine. Turning the frogs gay. This is it. Right here. Along with your clothes and the air. But looks like your water is going to make you grow man tits. And it's really not laughable. It's kind of funny to say, but it's really not. Estrogen is a very dangerous chemical and hormone. Women get too much of it, they get cancer. Men get a little too much of it, they get cancer. It is something you do not want to mess with. So it says, after we swallow a pill, it doesn't take long for its ingredients to enter local water systems. That's because our bodies generally only absorb a small portion of the dose. The rest of the pill, up to 90% of this pill, is excreted, either into the toilet as waste or through sweat that gets washed down shower drains or washing machines. Yes, that small, your sweat. You sweating and cleaning yourself in the shower is having an effect on our own water supply that we drink. And that same water supply that you drink, right, is the same water supply that you're showering with. So you're showering with estrogen to get the estrogen off to add more estrogen into the same water that you're showering in, which is filled with estrogen. So sometimes people even choose to flush unused pills, sending a full dose down the toilet. The hormones then travel to a wastewater plant, and from there, they can get discharged into nearby waterways, such as rivers and lakes, some of which are used as sources of drinking water. It means the prescriptions we take most often, like birth control, could eventually wind up in tap water in trace amounts. In his new book, Troubled Water, activist Seth Siegel says scientists don't yet understand the health effects of this potential contamination, but Siegel thinks all pharmaceutical compounds should be removed from our taps right away. So we would think, it goes to a treatment plant, and that's as far as normies think, right? It gets treated there, it's all clean, it's good now, right? Wrong. They don't have the systems to remove estrogen from the water. This article's downplaying it a lot. It says it's hard to tell how much estrogen from birth control winds up in our taps. In the U.S., around 15 million women regularly take birth control pills, which typically rely on a synthetic form of estrogen known as EE2. Since it's an endocrine disruptor, EE2 can interfere with reproductive hormones and development. If consumed in excess or by vulnerable individuals like infants, another attack on your babies. Make sure to filter your water. Find the best water filter, just filter everything. Filter your main house water and then filter the water from there. And it's worth the money, so spend it. Don't get the cheap ones. According to Siegel, birth control pills add more than 10 million doses of synthetic estrogen to America's wastewater every day. That estimate is based on the number of women who take oral contraceptives in the U.S. and assumes that those women take the pill 21 days of the month and excrete around 90% of the dose into the wastewater. How sneaky is that? The government definitely knows that. The FDA who's poisoning your kids, the WHO who plans on running you down and stabbing you with a shot and arresting you for speaking out about it, for not wanting it. These people know. 90% of the dose into the wastewater. 10 million doses a day. Says very little of that estrogen actually makes its way into our taps, but they can't tell, right? So they don't know. That is a... says since most water treatment systems filter it out along with the contaminants, but they can't. A 2010 study determined that birth control pills account for less than 1% of the total amount of estrogen found. Now watch this. This gets funny. Amount of estrogen found in U.S. drinking water, but since local water systems don't test for E2, right? Oh, we don't test for it. That's why it's not there. The study's authors noted it's hard to say for sure how much of the hormone is in our water. This is the funniest part. Most of the estrogen in drinking water comes from other sources, such as livestock that excrete natural estrogen, which can travel through soil and into local groundwater. Once again, it is the cow's fault. Bird flu. All three of these topics connect. Bird flu, coming from the cows. Need to kill the cows. Need to get rid of the meat so you can eat the bugs. Cows, they fart. They're changing the climate of the weather. Big deal. We're all going to die. Need to kill the cows. You need to eat the bugs. Cows, they piss out estrogen, which gets into your water, and it's turning you gay. And the frogs. Need to kill the cows. Need to eat the bugs. Stupid. But Siegel argues in his book that livestock can't solely be responsible for the estrogen in our wastewater, since other pharmaceutical compounds, like those used to make antidepressants, make it there as well. Exactly. What are the odds of cows pissing in grass? That water, right, which is getting filtered through the best filter in the world, the ground, versus people pissing 90% of a estrogen pill into direct water line that goes straight to the water treatment plant where they don't filter out the estrogen. It's coming from these pills. There's real God-made, right, which is pure and natural, and then there's this fake, human-made. It's just humans poisoning themselves. It says no one is giving a cow Zoloft, Siegel told Business Insider. The only possible source of that is through the wastewater. That's why it's so relevant, so scary. He's proving the point here. That doesn't mean women should stop taking the pill. Some water experts, Siegel said, abide by the adage that the solution to pollution is dilution. In other words, dumping water that contains pharmaceutical compounds into larger bodies of water dilutes the concentrations of hormones enough to minimize their threat to humans or the environment. But Siegel said that even in the purest bodies of water, like the Great Lakes, scientists have found residues of antidepressants like Prozac in the bodies of local fish. Goes in the Northeast, scientists have discovered that estrogen in rivers and lakes can cause male fish to develop female biomarkers like ovaries. Other studies have shown that exposure to EE2 has led fish to become less fertile across generations. So, is it the cows or these pills? Because they're testing the fish and they're starting to not be able to reproduce. Who else isn't starting to be able to reproduce? Humans. The sperm count in men is so low that in like the next 10, 15, 20 years, people aren't going to be able to make babies anymore. Scientists don't know if these findings have any implications for human health. Well, we do here over at the Collective Minds podcast. But Diana Aga, a chemical pollution expert at the State University of New York at Buffalo, told Siegel that it's possible for similar effects to crop up among more complex creatures. There's every reason to believe that estrogen and the pharmaceutical compounds that we're ingesting in micro quantities are having an effect. Siegel said, why wouldn't it be possible that a newborn or fetus or 3-year-old getting an irregular dosage might not see some effect on their brain function or brain development? Full circle. The solution, he said, isn't to stop making or taking medications. It's to make sure these compounds are deliberately removed at water treatment plants. Or how about make them so they break down faster? Pharmaceutical products have done great things for America's health. I'm not saying that we should ban all these things, Siegel said. What I am saying is that we should get all the benefits of these products and also get pure drinking water. We can do both. Amen. I agree with that. Yeah, make them break down faster. So women are absorbing all of the pill, or 90% of the pill, instead of 10% and 90% of it going into our drinking water. Absolutely incredible. So let us know down below what your thought was on these topics. Hope you learned a little bit and look into some of these things a little bit more for your safety, your children's safety, your family, your friends, everyone. I'll catch you on the next one.